"Doctor, you must be mistaken. The heart-wrenching news you just shared simply can't be true." He had always been devoted to his sons, yet now he had to accept that they weren't his children. Tragically, this businessman soon discovered that his entire life was built on a lie, and once he learned the truth, he had to take a shocking step. Discover what happens in today's twisting tale. And please, let us know where you're listening from today. Charles Harrington was a successful businessman and millionaire residing in the United Kingdom. He was married to a woman named Eleanor, and together they believed they had 3 sons. They had 3 sons, William, who was 23, and the 19-year-old twins, George and Oscar. In 2007, the marriage between Charles and Eleanor began to crumble, and by 2008, the couple finally decided to divorce. Charles harbored no regrets about his marriage. He had 3 sons, and he continued to support them even as their lives took different paths. As part of their financial settlement, Eleanor received a one-time payment of $1 million, intended to cover the costs of private school tuition for all 3 boys. Yet, despite that, Eleanor spent years pestering her ex-husband, demanding even more. In Charles's view, the 3 sons were the only silver lining of that marriage. However, an unexpected surprise was looming on the horizon. One day he got up for what he thought was a routine checkup. Charles underwent a standard examination, but it soon turned out not to be so routine. The doctor ran several tests, and the results turned Charles's world upside down. The doctor informed him that he had cystic fibrosis, a disease that leads to frequent lung infections, causes lung damage, and gradually reduces lung capacity, making breathing increasingly difficult over time. Unfortunately, cystic fibrosis is a genetic disease. Charles's own sister had died from William's condition a few years earlier. Despite his devastation, Charles was most terrified of one thing: could he pass this on to his 3 sons? Fortunately, the doctor assured him that there was no way he could transmit the disease to them. Relief flooded Charles, at least for a moment. Sadly, it was short-lived, as the doctor wasn't finished. Then came the shocking news. There was a very compelling reason he couldn't pass the disease on to others. In that moment, Charles's entire life came crashing down. When the conversation shifted to fertility, the doctor said, "Listen, you and your wife will face difficulties conceiving because, as a man with cystic fibrosis, you are infertile." Charles, proud as ever, declared, "Now you must be mistaken about your diagnosis. I already have 3 boys." The doctor, feeling both awkward and stunned, could only shake his head sadly. Slowly, the realization dawned on Charles. He replayed his life with Eleanor in his mind, re-examining every detail with fresh eyes. He recalled moments when certain warning signs should have set off alarms, and the thought made him sick. It simply couldn't have happened. Had he really been so oblivious? After all, he was almost always working late into the night. He remembered the time when Eleanor called him from a hotel late at night, claiming her flight was delayed on a business trip, details that had always struck him as odd. Shortly after Eleanor discovered she was pregnant with their first child, she began to show interest in something entirely unexpected during their 7-year marriage. Suddenly, she developed an interest in Judaism. Charles was taken aback. Both he and Eleanor had been raised as Christians, and this revelation hinted at the possibility of a double life on her part, and perhaps even pointed to the man she had been seeing. Charles knew his sons didn't exactly resemble him, yet they looked familiar. The clues were coming together, and Charles began to suspect he might know who Eleanor had been involved with. But perhaps he was jumping the gun. After all, identical twins are rare. In the general population, they occur in less than 1% of cases. It's also well known that fertility treatments increase the likelihood of conceiving twins. Could it be that Eleanor had been aware of fertility problems? After all, they had been married for 7 years before she finally became pregnant. But that's enough conjecture for today. It was time to confront her with the truth. In a fit of anger, he sent Eleanor a message demanding an explanation. "Hello? Today I was at the hospital, where I finally received a diagnosis. According to their experience, they've never seen a man with cystic fibrosis father a child, let alone 3. I'm sure that I'm not the father of our children." Eleanor read the message but did not reply. Seeing that politeness wouldn't yield answers, Charles decided to take a tougher stance. "I was hoping you would spare me the humiliation of further tests by telling me now whether I'm the father of the children. I'd gladly follow your advice on how best to break the news to the boys. But if you force me to undergo these additional tests, then I will tell them whatever I want." With no way out, Eleanor sent her response a few minutes later. Of course, the boys are yours, no matter what science suggests. Yet Charles remained skeptical. He then approached his eldest son, who was studying at university, and told him everything. And how did his son take the news? He replied, "I beat you to it, Dad. You're saying that you probably aren't my father?" Devastated by the thought that he might not be his son's biological father, Charles realized that this was the hardest thing to hear. Charles assured his eldest son that he would always be his father, even if he didn't believe he had conceived him. Then, 2 days later, Charles finally received word from Eleanor. She admitted that during their year marriage she had been involved with another man, and what was even more insulting, Charles knew him personally. Yet she continued to insist that Charles was the father of their children. With no other option, he had to obtain expert evidence. He realized that the past 20 years of his life had been one continuous lie. He decided that she should pay. Charles sought advice from an expert in paternity fraud. After undergoing numerous tests, it was confirmed that Charles was indeed incapable of being the biological father of the children. The next step was to obtain DNA samples from his sons. The results proved that the twins were not his, but to complicate matters further, his eldest son refused to provide a sample. Charles's eldest son stated, "As for me, he is my father, and that's that." Despite knowing the truth, the twins still considered Charles their father as the case progressed. One of the twins even sent Charles a touching message of support. "Dad, as I told you from the beginning, you will always be my father no matter what. I will always be by your side, and you will always be my dad. Love you, your son." When Eleanor's incredible lie was exposed in court, Charles won the case, and Eleanor was ordered to pay him over. Eleanor agreed to settle the case, but on one condition: the identity of the biological father of their sons must remain anonymous. Yet for Charles, the victory felt hollow and bittersweet. While he had succeeded in the eyes of the law, the emotional wounds cut far deeper than any court ruling could mend. He had invested years of love, patience, and care into raising the boys as his own, only to discover a truth that shattered his very foundation. Even with the legal win, he couldn't shake the pain of betrayal and the lingering sense of loss. In the end, he had one message, not of anger, but a firm conviction. For the man who had secretly fathered his sons, the boys deserved to know the truth. They had every right to learn who their biological father was and understand the full story of their origins. But regardless of that hidden truth, Charles stood tall in his role as their dad, because being a father isn't defined by biology or genetics. It's about presence, about the sleepless nights, the scraped knees, the quiet moments of guidance, and the unwavering support through every high and low. Charles believed that love, loyalty, and devotion defined a true father, and no matter what, he would always be there for his sons, because real parenthood comes from the heart, not from a DNA test. What do you think of today's powerful and emotional story? If you were in Charles's shoes, would you have responded in the same way? We'd love to hear your thoughts and reflections in the comments below. And if this story resonated with you, please like this video and subscribe to our channel for more real-life stories that inspire and touch the heart. Thank you for listening to Storyline Narratives.